Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of the drafting tutorial for Out of the Park 22. If you missed the first episode or part of this the other day, I'd recommend going back and watching this one where I did some early round picks as GM of the Kansas City Royals. Here we are in the 2022 MLB draft. This is a different sim, but same draft as the rounds one and two that I did. Just the new patch came out, so I wanted to update it, start a draft new with the new patch. So, but all the same rules will apply. And again, go back and watch that video if you want the tips on the early rounds. And as always, like the video, subscribe, check out more in the description box for the Patreon and Twitter if you want to follow this account other places. So here we are. We're in the 12th round of the draft as the Kansas City Royals. And I wanted to just, go over some things and some types of things you want to consider in this part of the draft. Some of the same principles I talked about in the last video with the early round will apply, but it's a bit different because you're not going to have a guy who's like, oh, this guy could be a star for me. And maybe this guy will turn into a star for you taking the 12th round, but it's going to take a lot of development and growth in his ceiling to get him there. So this is one point in the draft when probably earlier than the 12th round, when you're going to want to start doing what I mentioned in the last video, and that's looking at batters who can be pitchers and pitchers who can be batters. So I'm sorted here under batters. I'm under pitching potential, which is a filter I made. And it's just a good time to check these things out. And you can see we've got a batter here who's actually who my scout is recommending, who's Lucas Kaley, who's got a 50 stuff, 45 potential, 50 control. And he's got high work ethic and intelligence. For the 12th round, there's a lot to like there. This is his batting stats. Don't love him as a hitter. He's only 18, and with the work ethic intelligence, maybe he can grow this a bit and he could be decent. But I think you're taking him because of his pitching if you're taking him here. And, he's got a major league ready fastball, major league ready curveball, but that changeup probably is not going to develop. Maybe it will. He's only 18. And just the development of a pitch is it's just hard to predict. And so he could just be a reliever with average stuff. But at 18, good work ethic, good intelligence, high intelligence. He's competent with the bat to where if his work ethic and intelligence helped him grow, he could be a good hitter for you too. Not going to be a great defensive player anywhere. But this guy has some interesting things going on, and obviously some warts too, right? It's a 12th round pick. You're not necessarily getting a player that you're expecting to turn into a major league talent. You're not taking a flyer as much as you are in like the 33rd round. But these are guys, most 12th round picks are not going to make it to the majors for you. So Kaley has a viable path of making it to the majors as a reliever. Maybe not a very good one. Not likely it's going to happen, but more likely than a lot of guys you're going to see in this part of the draft. So, and these other guys here, I don't know. I don't really see anything with this guy that we wouldn't be getting in Kaley, and his catcher ability is poor. He can't field anywhere else. Troy Taylor has good stuff. He's a nothing hitter. And his movement and control are mediocre. He's got 3 good pitches. But yeah, I don't really see any reason to draft him right now. So that's kind of the all batters. And then if you go to all pitchers and going to change my filter to batting, and I just kind of go through some of the tools here. So, this guy has decent contact. Tony Ballard. Let's look at his ratings. Not going to be great anywhere in the field, but he might be able to fake it some places for you. And he's got some decent ratings. Now, he's already 22, which is why I think I like the other guy better at 18, Kaley, because he's got more time to develop and increase his ceiling. But this guy also looks like he could be a competent minor league player for you and maybe better. But low adaptability is his only personality trait we see. So I like the other guy better. Lucas Kaley here. So now let's just look at batters as batters. And normally I sort by potential here. Of course, I've covered in other videos why this is just kind of a sloppy indicator, but a good way to sort large groups of players like a draft. And so my scout thinks there are 2 40 rated players left. Andrew Lucas, I don't know, man. Like he's a corner outfitter at best and looking like a mediocre one. I don't really see I'm not too interested in him. Same story here with Brian Martinez. His bat is a bit better. He's also a leader. He's got high intelligence, low work ethic. Don't love that. But, I mean, this is, at 17 years old, this is not a bad ceiling to draft in the 12th round. I don't really mind that, him as a pick. And then, and of course, I'd go through these in more detail if I was drafting. I don't want the video to be too long, so I don't go through every player. I like to just talk about different types of players that you can then hopefully apply when you look in more detail at your draft class. And sorting by pitchers here, nobody's got like 3 average tools left, and that's going to be normal for this point in the draft. This guy Anthony Boy, I guess it is. And I mean, this is not a bad pitcher at all for this point in the draft. Of course, he's 22, and I do like in the 12th rounds and these middle rounds, I skew towards the younger players when they look like similar players, because the younger players have more time to develop and maybe break out as a potential stud and develop beyond what their ceiling is. So I kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I don't like any of these players that much, which is kind of what it's like in the 12th round. But I'm leaning towards Kaley. I think there are guys who, if you broke down the ratings and you broke down the potential and all that, guys who you might like more than the other guys I've looked at. But I like that he's 18, the work ethic and intelligence, and he's got some tools to work with. So that's why I like Kaley. And one thing I would do before I pick is I'd say, okay, well, show me all pitchers. Who you recommend as a pitcher? And my scout recommends Garrett Wade. And I don't really see much here as a 22-year-old of, I mean, he's got the high work ethic, but I don't really see much here where I'm going to take him over Kaley. And then I also say, okay, well, show me shortstops, because I like to take shortstops. Michael Haydack, he's not going to play shortstop in the major leagues. He's also 22. And center field, Cam Hill, he's 24. Well, yeah, I don't really see anything there. And again, I might go through these in more detail if I'm drafting myself and taking more time with it. And some people are going to prefer to draft kind of the more sure thing. So 22-year-old who looks like he can be a good minor league player for you and solidify a team. Like this guy, Andrew Boy, he's probably going to stick around in your minor leagues for a bit. And with these 3 pitches, even if his movement and all these the stuff and control don't come along, he's going to be able to pitch for you at different levels in the minors, and maybe he'll turn into a better player, but I wouldn't bet on it. So if we do all batters, I think he's going to recommend Kaley. Yeah, I would be fine with this Lucas Kaley pick, with the hope that his work ethic and intelligence can bring his bat along a bit, and with the hope that maybe his changeup will develop. I think you just have, you're taking lottery tickets to an extent at this point in the draft, even more so as you go deeper into the draft. And I think Kaley has different factors that can hit. The other guys were counting on, hopefully this one thing develops. With Kaley, we're looking at, okay, maybe his changeup will develop. Okay, maybe his hitting skills will develop. Okay, he's got the high work ethic and the high intelligence. It's going to help these things. So that's multiple factors in his favor, even though there might be other guys who we like more as players. So that's why I'm okay drafting Kaley here, and I'm going to do it. And let's go to the next round and just do another, let's go ahead and skip until our next pick and just see who our scouting director recommends now. Mason Morris, who is not a guy we had looked at, another 18-year-old, and low work ethic, low intelligence, does not have good defensive ratings. I'm not going to pick that guy. I can tell you already, I'm not going to pick that guy. Pitchers, he's recommending Garrett Wade still. I kind of like this Anthony Boy guy. I kind of like him as a 13th round pick. Likely never going to be on your major league team, but if he develops just a little bit more, he might be able to be like a long man out of your bullpen, which if you turn a 13th round pick into a guy who could develop into a long man in your bullpen for 2 to 3 seasons, that's really not bad. Sure, sometimes you'll hit the lotto and you'll get, I've drafted guys in the 12th or 13th round or later and they turn into all-stars. Shout out to Mario Armendariz from my Out of the Park 21's OSIM. But most of the time, it's not going to happen. You can't plan on that happening. So let's just see who my guy recommends as a center fielder. Tanner Treadway. I like that name. Yeah, nothing really going on there. And again, take more time than I'm taking to kind of sort through these different tools, identify guys. I'm just trying to give examples of how I think through this without, taking an hour to make a video on the draft. And I'm just going to do one last sort here of the batting, but I think I have no problem taking that boy guy. I guess that's how, I'm assuming that X is silent, or maybe it's like a Z, like in Xavier, maybe, or Zavarian. Maybe it's like boys. Who knows? I'm sure one of you guys will let me know. And so we've got a guy with good eye, Cam Chick, another great name. Any big power bats out here? Yeah, but I mean, nothing I love. Contact is a great skill to have. This guy's still interesting. I think we looked at him last round. Leader, loyalty, adaptability, but that catcher rating, man, like he's not going to play anywhere in the field, and his bat is not good enough to be a DH. Sure, he could be a okay minor league guy, but if his catcher ability was higher, I'd like him. And that's the thing I'd look for in later rounds is just catchers who are out there with really high catcher ability who can be good catchers for you in the minor leagues. But you can sign guys like that too. So, yeah, I'm going to go to the starters, and I'm going to go to my pitching draft filter. And where'd our guy go? Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting guys here who have higher ceilings in some areas, but you can see, boy, not many guys have the 45 or above with everything. Sure, this guy, Jack Anderson, has some higher ceilings, and actually, hello, kind of like him, but that I don't like that control. Maybe it would develop. Yeah, I think you could look at Jack Anderson or Anthony Boyes. We'll call him Boyes. I think either one is fine here as a pick. And I think you could kind of go through different guys here. And maybe you'd find a guy with the high work ethic who you like. But I think a guy like Anthony Boyes is totally reasonable to pick here. So we're going to go with him. And we're going to hope that maybe he can develop a little more and turn into a guy who's like on our 40 man and maybe a AAA starter, and he can come up and fill in as a long man when we need him. That would be my hope, which would be an acceptable outcome for a 13th round pick. So I'm going to draft him, and then we're going to jump ahead to the final rounds and talk through some different strategies for finding players in those rounds. Okay, we are now in round 28. Some of you may observe that we're in the year 2023 as well now instead of 2022, because me being whatever adjective you want to use or noun, I accidentally simulated to the end of the 2022 draft instead of the last few rounds. So I just went to the next year, and I'm with the Royals again, and I'm just going to go over some things that I look at late in the round. I don't know. This is more, and some of you who have played through more seasons of a sim of 22 than me, let me know in the comments if this is something you've noticed, because I hadn't really noticed this as much in other like practice drafts and stuff I'd done playing around. But there's some decently rated players here for it being the 28th round. I mean, these aren't good players, but a 40 potential, I mean, and several of them in the 28th round. I feel like normally you're dealing with just 20s at this point. So I don't know. Maybe I've got an outlier of draft here. Maybe 22 is just different in that way, and I hadn't noticed yet. But interested to see what you guys think. So let me know. But anyway, so I'm going to go through a few things that I do here. So later in the draft, given that the quality of player is lower, somebody like Braxton Stewart here, high work ethic, high intelligence, he's going to be more intriguing to me than maybe at other points in the draft, because of the fact that every player, just as you go deeper and deeper in the draft, they have more and more flaws and generally a lower and lower ceiling. So leader, adaptability, work ethic, intelligence. I mean, a leader is going to have value on your minor league team. So is work ethic and intelligence. Now, he's listed as a reliever. He's got the stamina to start. He's got good enough pitches to start. I don't know that he's ever going to be anything, but this is a guy who could start somewhere in your minor leagues now, in low A ball at 19, be a leader, have good work ethic and intelligence. I think that's a perfectly fine way to use a 28th round pick. Now, there might be some other guys. I like to kind of scroll here and see if there are other guys who have high for both, to kind of see what the competition is. We've got a shortstop here with high work ethic and normal intelligence, so that's interesting. He's not really doing much for me. He's also 22, and he's not going to actually be able to play shortstop. Here's another guy who's high in both, Parker Palat. And yeah, same thing. He's got greed and loyalty. He's not the leader, but he can play. He can play second base, I guess. Arm's probably not good enough for third. Maybe he could fake it as a corner outfielder. But again, work ethic and intelligence, he's a guy worth considering. And let's see. Another thing that I like checking here is just going to fielding ratings and going by, you don't have to sort it by catcher, and just checking catcher ability. Are there any guys here that, having a 65 catcher ability on your low A ball team is decent? So you might want to consider guys like that too. I don't think any of these guys are going to be anything more than like low A ball players for you. Maybe you can bump them up a little bit if their catcher ability is carrying them, and you need a good defensive catcher. But I'm not really seeing anybody here that jumps out at me. And then I'd also obviously see what my scout thinks. So my scout thinks I should take this dude, Alec Sayer, a college right fielder. Honestly, pretty good player. Personality class is unknown, but he has the mental skills to handle big pressure. But yeah, I mean, pretty good avoid Ks. Everything else is, not great. But again, we're talking about total flyer here in the 28th round. And range isn't good. He's going to be a below average corner outfielder for you probably. He's not going to play the infield, but this is a dude who's totally fine to take at this point in the draft. Let's see if I want a shortstop who he recommends. Alex Freeland, not really a shortstop. Not great for any infield position. He's not going to be a standout, but could play corner outfield for you. He's 21. So that's nothing stand about his work ethic or intelligence. And again, I'd go to center field and Coleman Brigman. And the reason I'm going through these players is just to kind of help explain my thought process for for different types of players, just because I do get asked a lot about specifics, and it's kind of like you just got to like kind of get comfortable with your thought process and your preferences and use that. So talking through the thought process I figured would be helpful here with these late round guys. And then let's see all pitchers. Ryan Hagenow. I like that other pitcher who had the high work ethic and intelligence better than him. So yeah, I don't know. I think it depends on what direction you want to go here. I, at this point, would probably take the guy who, let's find him here. Where'd he go? Where'd our high go? There he is. Is this our guy? Oh, I'm still listed by catcher. Somebody's probably shouting at the screen that I was still sorted by catcher. I hope you were anyways. I don't know. I'd probably go with Braxton Stewart just because he's going to return some immediate value being a leader. And I really don't see any of these guys as like big-time major league pitchers. He only throws 87 to 89. He's got bad movement, extreme fly ball. This dude is not going to probably ever be much of anything, but you never know with his work ethic and intelligence. But again, I like that he returns the immediate value of being a leader. So I think that would be a fine player to draft there. He's a high school player. He's 19. And let's go ahead and see who my scout recommends for the next pick. Cam Kaley. I don't see any reason to pick this guy. He's 22. His ceiling's super low. He cannot play center field. There's no reason to pick that player, who my scout is recommending. Let's see who he recommends as pitcher. Hagenow again. I think Hagenow's fine-ish, like whatever. I might go to personality and sort by leader, where again, we've got another high intelligence, high work ethic guy, but that guy doesn't really have much going on. A couple other here's a catcher with high work ethic and intelligence. Not really good catcher ability though, so I don't love him. And so let's see who my scout recommends as a center fielder. Coleman Brigman again. Yeah, I think a guy like this is fine to take, but honestly, I would probably at this point just use like the potential rating, just because there's so many guys to dig into. If you want to go through and find every guy, I think that's fine. But I'd probably just be fine settling on a guy with this guy, like these guys who my scout thinks has the highest potential rating. Obviously, there's serious flaws with many of them, all of them really, and they're really not going to be major league players for you unless they show some serious growth. So I might take a guy like this because he might be able to play decent infield defense for me at second base in the minor leagues. I might go and sort by position rating or fielding ratings and find guys with really high range I can stick at shortstop and different positions like that. Like this guy might be able to play low A, just kind of like for me and be okay, right? So those are the things I do here in the late rounds. I hope this has been helpful. I hope I didn't ramble too much going through my thought process, but that's kind of how I would handle these picks. And let me know if you guys have any more questions.